everyone. Today I have with me Nicole Jones-Dion, and she is a screenwriter and director, and I am crazy about the stuff that you wrote, just so you know. I looked into some of it. Some of it I couldn't find, but the stuff that I just got done watching Dracula this morning.
Oh, cool.
And there are so many good lines in that movie. I wanted to take a pen out and write them because as a movie watcher, that's what I look for. I look for those tidbits of lines that you're just like gems of lines, and you are really good at that. So I'm so happy to have you here with me today and to pick your brain on all this stuff. And it amazes me, like the work that you do. Like as a woman, I'm like, I picture a man doing this. Like, you have an amazing brain, okay, for this stuff.
And that's funny. That's one of the things I take that as a compliment, actually. And so many people have read my scripts, and by the time they get to the end, they go back to the title page and they're like, I can't believe this was written by a woman. And to that, I always say, because I do, I specialize in genre films, and I'm like, because there's this perception that women can only write like character dramas or rom-coms, and it's like, no, we can do these really cool, 4-quadrant action, horror, sci-fi. We can do all of this stuff if you just let us. Give us half a chance.
Yes, and I was looking through your bio. You were born on an army base, or when you were born, you were living on an army base, correct?
Yeah, outside of DC in Alexandria.
I lived on Andrews. Outside of DC. I don't know if that's not an army base; it's an Air Force base. But I did live there for a while. My ex-husband was a Marine, and we were stationed all over the place. And I had kids in different places too.
You know what that military lifestyle is like. Being updated every 6 months, moving around.
Yeah. They don't do that anymore. I have sons that were in the Marines and the Army, and they really stick them in a place now. They do not waste money the way back in the day where it was like East Coast, West Coast, East Coast, West Coast.
Yeah, because we were literally, when I was a kid growing up, we were moving probably every 6 months to a year. We were going somewhere else. It's an interesting childhood. It's an interesting way to grow up. It's like I feel a little jealous when I hear people who's like, oh, I've had the same childhood friends that I've known my entire life, and it's like, for me, we didn't have that option, but it gave you a chance to redefine yourself and reinvent yourself each time you move to a new location. So you could kind of, I don't know, try different personas out and see which one stuck.
Yeah, and I was wondering how that fit in with your writing. Like, did you always know you were going to be a writer? Were you just really,
Pretty much, yeah. I was always a storyteller. And I kind of see, I started out writing short fiction, and then I actually worked in video games for a while when I first moved to LA, and then I was writing scripts for video games that never got made. But then I showed someone one of my video game scripts, and it's like, oh, that would actually make a good movie. And so that's kind of how I ended up in film. And I also wrote comics. I'm just a storyteller, and I like working in a really visual media, and so film seems to have been the natural progression of that.
That's awesome. And you got a full scholarship to Duke, is that correct?
I did. I got a writing scholarship, yeah.
That is amazing right there. How awesome was that?
It was pretty cool. Well, because up until then, I had all plans of joining the military, and because I grew up in a military household, right? So I was all set to go to one of the academies or join the military, and then when I got the scholarship, I was like, sweet, I can go to school instead. And then I ended up still joining the Army later, but that was, a different story.
Just a little college like Duke, just there, So that I found really amazing. So when you got out and then you went to Hollywood and you start, I always want to ask my screenwriters, everybody makes it seem like in books it's like, oh, it's going to be impossible, but yeah, you should try, but yeah, it's going to be impossible because screenwriting is just impossible, but definitely write a screenplay because you never know, but
And that, what, I would agree with that wholeheartedly. It's like when I first moved to LA, I actually had no intention of getting into film because I thought, oh my God, that's like the biggest cliche ever. Someone moves to LA to get into movies. Right. So I got into, like I said, video games. And, but it was at that weird time, I'm going to give my age away now, but it was at that weird time in the 90s when they were doing all these live action video games. So it was basically like choose your own adventure movies. And that was a very short-lived experiment because they had all of the production costs and technical issues with making a movie and then all the issues with making a video game. And it was just, it didn't really work. But so that was kind of my first little taste as to what it was like working in film, was working in these live action video games, and then kind of, segued from there.
Yeah, because I saw it somewhere that you had written for Tekken. Is that right?
Well, I did the adaptation. So I wrote the screenplay for Tekken 2, which was the sequel to the original Tekken 1. But it was based on the video game. So yeah, I think, and having that video game background kind of helps, I guess, in a way. It's like, 'cause you understand the games and then trying to figure out like the underlying stories and then trying to flip those into a different medium.
So when you were at Duke, I mean, did you take screenwriting courses, or were they just regular? You did not. Okay.
No. In fact, it's kind of funny because if I'd known I was going to end up in the entertainment industry, I probably should have gone to a different school. Nothing against Duke, but they're not really known for their entertainment program. But no, so I majored in creative writing, just basic, normal creative writing. So no, it wasn't until I moved out here that I learned the actual screenplay format, because that's very, very different. It's a very specialized format.
Right.
And that's something, if someone wants to be a screenwriter, you kind of have to know those rules going in. I mean, because it's different. I mean, it is very different than writing any type of prose or narrative.
Right. It's a different way of thinking too. I mean, that's why I like it.
Yeah.
I think I like fooling around with it because I think I'm better at it, because writing a book is so descriptive. You don't have to be as descriptive. You don't have to be, you can kind of leave a lot.
I know a lot of people tell me I should take some of my story ideas and turn them into novels. I'm like, but there's just so many words.
So many words in a book.
Look at the page. It's just covered in them.
Oh my God, that's funny. So, okay, so when you move out there, like, what is your big break? Like, so you get there, what do you do?
For me, I mean, at the time I was taking, little screenwriting classes, just trying to get my feel for the format, I guess. And I had a zombie script that I'd written it was really well received. I entered it in a bunch of contests, and it actually came in second in the Big Bear contest. And one of the judges confided to me later that there was a huge fight in the judging room because they wanted my script to win, and they said, we cannot have a zombie script be our winning script. So they gave me second place. But that was, I would say that was kind of my big break, because from there I was able to, I met up with my agent at the time, and who then put me in touch with the manager, and the ball started rolling with different things. I got different writing assignments, the Scribbler being one, which was an adaptation of a graphic novel. And I was on this really great trajectory until the writer's strike happened and kind of killed everything. So now I'm like having to pick up the pieces and start back over again, but that did kind of set that foundation that I've been able to build on. To get where I'm at now.
Yeah, it seems like everybody just has their story. Like, I had interviewed Eric Bork a while ago, and he went for a temp job, and he got to be Tom Hanks's temp.
Nice.
Nice. Like, that's it. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Hang out with Tom Hanks and, learn how to write screenplays, and, and then he did. That's exactly what he did. So it's just interesting because everybody has their, like, well, this happened, then this happened, then this happened kind of,
It is, and that's one of the great and yet frustrating things about this business, is that there's no one path to entry. Mm-hmm. It's, like other fields, you can be an apprentice or what, and you work your way up. You go to school for it, you become an apprentice, and you're in. And this one, there's none of that. It's like, yeah, you could meet someone's hairdresser and they could be, you're in. In my case, I went through the contest route, but like your friend who, was the assistant or the temp. There's so many avenues to get in, which is great. But then the challenge is finding your own path, because it's different for everyone.
Right. Have you had any kind of like aha moments, like been on a movie set and been like, now this is pretty cool? Like, have you had any type of like, I dreamt that it could be like this, but it's better,
I think for me, like, it was when, because I shot my first feature that I wrote and directed myself last summer, this sci-fi film called Stasis, and we'd already been shooting for like a week or, maybe a week and a half. And everything was like cool, because we were like in a little house or these little locations. And then on this one day, we were in this massive, massive abandoned warehouse. And the whole thing was just crawling with extras. And this was going to be our big battle scene. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, this is a movie. This is what it's like to make a movie. I don't know. It is. It's like something just kind of flips in the brain. And up until then, I was just like, oh, this is just a bunch of people with, with cameras, and we're just kind of having fun. But no, that was when it like kind of hit home that, oh no, this is legit. This is real.
This is real. What does stasis mean? What is that? When I
stasis, it's kind of hard to explain without giving too much away, but the basic idea of the story is that, the genesis that I was given, the producers who hired me said, okay, we want to write a story about a young girl who's a rebellious young girl, sneaks out of her house, goes partying with her friends, and blacks out. And when she wakes up and tries to sneak back home, she sees she's already in her own bed. That was kind of
okay, that's cool.
The premise that I was given to work with. And so the conceit that I came up with is that you have these time travelers from the future who can't physically come back, but they can project their consciousness into the bodies of the newly dead. And so they have this young girl, OD'd, a time traveler took over her body, but she wasn't quite dead yet. And so now she's like a ghost trying to get her body back. So she's kind of in this stasis between the living and the dead. She's in this kind of...
This is my theme today. I don't know.
There you go.
That is so cool, though. So basically, because of where you are in your career, you're not out there just writing things and hoping somebody to buy them. They're actually coming to you and saying, we want to make a movie, and this is the premise. Yeah,
I do a little of both. I mean, I do a lot. 90%, if you're going to be a working screenwriter anyway, 90% of the work you do is writing other people's stories. Right. I mean, that's just kind of the reality of it. Mm-hmm. But I do try to take enough time to write one or two of my own original ideas each year, because sometimes you just need to write your own stuff. It's very cathartic. Mm-hmm. And so last year, the spec that I wrote was this story called The Elevator Game, which I'm now out trying to sell. And the idea with The Elevator Game, if you're not familiar with it, is it's inspired by the Eliza Lamb story. If you know who she was, she was a tourist from Vancouver who was visiting LA, and then she disappeared, and they found her body in the water tank on top of the Cecil Hotel downtown. And the only reason they were able to find her is that the guests in the hotel were complaining that the water tasted funny, which is really awful. It's an awful story. But in the time when she was missing, the police had released the last known footage of her when she was alive. And it's this woman, it's the security camera in the elevator. And it's this young woman who's acting very bizarre. Like you see her, she's like looking around, she's pushing all the buttons, she's talking to someone who's not there. And so when Westerners look at that video, we're like, oh, this poor girl, she's either mentally ill or she's on drugs. But there was such a bizarre story that it went viral. And when they saw it in like Korea and Japan, they're like, oh, she's playing the elevator game. So they have a tradition, which is kind of like one of these like supernatural games like our Bloody Mary, where if you go into an elevator and you push the buttons in a certain sequence, it'll take you to the spirit world. But you run the risk, if you do it incorrectly, that you can get trapped. And they're saying that's what happened to Eliza Lamb.
Ooh, I did not hear that story.
So it's an awesome story. So anyway, that was the spec I wrote last year, and that's the one I'm going out with this year, trying to raise the funds. And so my mentor, who's Sean Cunningham, the creator of Friday the 13th, is on board. He's trying to help me out with it. So fingers crossed, because I think it's a story we haven't seen, and I think it's really cool.
Very original.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So with Dracula, because I just watched that. But did you write that for somebody, or was that something of your own?
Dracula, I'm trying to think how much I can say without getting in trouble. So Dracula was originally conceived, back onto video games, as, if you know the game Castlevania, it was going to be an adaptation of Castlevania. And then the company that had the rights to Castlevania, the rights had lapsed. They didn't want to renew, but Dracula's public domain. So they're like, well, let's do a Dracula movie, but let's set it in the Middle Ages, which is, a period that we haven't really seen Dracula movies. Usually you see them in the 1800s and modern day. So that could be kind of fun. And so in that case, the director was a friend of mine, this gentleman by the name of Perry Teo. And so he was brought on, and he did kind of a first pass on the script, which was more of like a scriptment, which kind of like halfway between a treatment and a screenplay. And then they brought me on to really flesh it out and refine it.
Oh, that's very cool. So when you were making okay, so then you get that screenplay. Do you go to the set? Like, were you on set at Dracula?
That one I was not, and it was really kind of funny because they were shooting in Romania, and I was here in LA, and they would send me notes. Like, I would have meetings midnight my time where they would send me notes for the stuff that they were going to be shooting the next day. So I would have to write it at night, send them the changes so they could have it for the next morning. It was crazy. It was a crazy.
I wondered if they shot it in Romania, because that's like where Dracula movies should kind of be, I guess. But yeah. I thought that the guy, I can't think of now, who played Dracula?
Oh, is
What's
it
that
Luke?
actor's name? He was cool though. I liked him.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a different, he was like a different, I don't know. I really liked him. Of course, I was looking underneath. I watched it. Okay. I couldn't get it on Netflix. Couldn't get it on Amazon. Amazon says they don't have the rights for it yet.
Oh, weird.
But YouTube does. I got to watch it on YouTube. And
Okay.
so you know, just in case you didn't know, there's like 1 million views on YouTube of Dracula. And so I was reading through the comments and everybody comments about Dracula. They're like, "Oh my god, he's gorgeous. I love him. He's so amazing," you know.
Yeah.
So he was a big fan, and I mean, he was a big fan favorite of that movie, you know, was
And
him.
that was what we were going for, was like more of the, you know, the handsome, tortured Dracula, and where he does bad things, but he does them for a reason.
Mhm.
So it was kind of really playing with that idea of anti-heroes and, you know, what makes us good, what makes us evil, and the fact that, like, you know, in the mythology that we created for that story, it's like the thief who was the descendant of, you know, Cain. When we start bringing in the descendant of Cain and Abel, it was actually the descendant of Cain that was the hero, and the descendant of Abel was the villain. So it was kind of playing with that.
Yeah, but I
notions.
like that. I mean, as somebody, you know, I always look into that kind of. I mean, a lot of people watch those movies because they just like Dracula, I thought it was kind of cool the way John Voight's character, you know, like he's the one who knows what is he called? I don't know what his name is in the movie.
Oh, in the movie, he was Van Helsing. So he was supposed to be like the descendant of Van Helsing. So
Yeah,
he was
right. He was a descendant, and I just love how he was like teaching them about it, and just I don't know. I thought it was really cool. Done.
John Voight's just amazing in everything.
Oh my! I know. That's what I was thinking because as soon I'm thinking, okay, I know that he's in it. I already saw, and I'm like, I wonder if I'll recognize him. And he comes on the screen. It's like, of course you recognize him. He's like his presence. Like he's like the guy, you know.
Even with crazy prosthetic nose, you still recognize him.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. I definitely right. And he takes that character. I mean, some of these actors and actresses were not people I knew. You know, they're not famous people, but he like comes onto a scene and they get better. Like you know, you could just see it. You know, like he gets that from people. You know, So try to always back up my questions. Okay, so when you're writing it for them, do they already have these actors and actresses, or do you get a say, or do you get like any input on what you're thinking for them?
In this case, I didn't really have a lot of input with the casting, but they did audition, and because we were shooting in Romania, they wanted to use primarily UK actors to cut back on the travel costs.
Right.
So yeah, a lot of those guys we don't know them very well here, but they've been on a lot of TV shows in UK.
I always get that. That's what you get from those movies, but they kind of fit that because the way they speak. It commands, and that happened for another movie I was, and they were like, "Oh, they're really popular in England." I'm like, "Oh, see, it's just nuts." But over there, they're very popular. So,
right.
You know.
And so I did see some of the audition tapes. Mostly, they would show me the audition tapes of the people that they were thinking of casting, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, that person's really good. Yeah, you should totally use him." Or you know, I'm like, "Oh yeah, he's really hot. Yeah, you should totally cast him."
See, to me, that would be the really fun part. If I got a little. What about In Stasis? Did you, since that's like
no, that one, because I was directing that one myself. Yes, I was involved every step of the way with that. It was a lower budget film, so with that one we shot in Arizona, and we ended up our original plan was we were going to cast from LA, but then because of budget restrictions, we ended up using a lot of local Arizona talent, and they were really good. I was really impressed with the quality of the people we ended up getting that were local to Phoenix. There's a nice little burgeoning film community there, and they're all it was fun because it was like everyone's making films because their heart's in it. They're really passionate about it. They haven't gotten jaded like a lot of the folks here in California have, and so that was really kind of nice, you know, to work with people who were just that passionate about the medium.
And so when you said like you want to eventually like produce these movies, is that what happens? Like you start getting into it, like you start writing, and then you start a little bit of directing as you go, like because eventually do you want to be that person, you know, like totally in charge of, or is it like, you know?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, like I said, everybody's path is different, but I guess for me, it's like originally I'm just happy telling stories, and then you're like, I don't like what they did with my story, so I'm going to direct it myself so I can tell my own story the way I want to direct it. And then you realize, oh, even the director doesn't have full say, right? So,
that's so funny.
Then you have to produce if you want like total control. And
Right.
Yeah, so I guess it just becomes like, how much control do you want over the end result?
Right. I was thinking about that. I always think about that when I see the producer. I always am like, so does the director get to say, or does the producer get to, like, which way does that go?
It's everything. Film is a compromise. It's that's the primary difference between, and this is what I tell writers who want to have complete control of the end result: go write a novel. But you have to understand, film is a collaborative medium. The screenplay is just the blueprint, mm-hmm. and then from there, everyone else has input. And once you get a film into production, you're going to have actors chiming in, direct producers chiming in, everybody's chiming in. In fact, like with Dracula, for example, John Voight wrote his own monologue. He wanted his monologue. You remember in the bar scene, he gives like this big rousing speech. He wrote that himself. He really wanted that. So. And we're like, when John Voight wants to write his own monologue, you let him write his own monologue.
You're like, okay, go ahead. Give it to him. Yeah.
Have the floor.
That's awesome. So, we're talking, it's 2 days after the Oscars. And, when you watch the Oscars, are you just like, yes, like that's exactly where I want to be sitting?
It's funny because I'm not one of those people, because I know the types of films that I do aren't the ones that get Oscar noms. Maybe that'll change someday. You never know.
I was going to say, things are changing very fast there, because they used to always say comedies, or, they always say there's a certain amount, but then look at La La Land, then you got that coming in. So you just never know. And
it's like, for me, I guess, like I hope that someday horror will get to the point like it was in the 70s, where it was respect. Like The Omen is one of my all-time favorite movies, and that is high drama, that is high art. And even, I guess, most recently Black Swan, I guess, was where the horror film was taken to a place of high art, and it actually did get some Oscar buzz. But yeah, for the most part, the genre films, they keep getting overlooked, or kind of their own fault, I guess, because they're turning to appeal to the lowest common denominator. But yeah, I think if we can elevate our horror and make it like it used to be, that would be awesome.
I'm just so happy that it's you. That, like I said, when I found, when I started looking into it, I was like, a woman in horror stuff. So this is interesting. This is a new twist on it. I think it adds something to it. And like I said, what I loved about Dracula, and I'll be looking for in Stasis when it comes out, is that the lines are so good. You nail those like quotables, and I think you'll see those, because I always go on those websites that tell me like the quotables from a movie. Yeah. I think you will see that with your stuff, because you do nail that. And in case nobody's ever told you that, I'll tell you that.
Thank you. The new script I'm working on now, the new project that I've been hired to write and direct, is it's a YA fantasy, but it's angels and demons, so it's a lot of that kind of like awesome dialogue. Hopefully awesome dialogue, but there's some great lines in there that I hope make it to the final cut, and I hope people start quoting.
Yes,
that would be great.
Yes, absolutely. That's what I see with you, and for your future. But I will definitely. Do you have any? Now I know it takes so long. Like, you're working on stuff. It takes like a year, and then it's in pre and post, and all this stuff. Is there? Do you always have like another thing? Like, as one thing's there, then your next step you got that, and then next step,
Especially with scripts. It's called script stacking, but it's where you have to have multiple projects in the works at any time. And the trick is to make sure that you don't overburden yourself. Right. One of the things that I found out kind of the hard way last year, because last year, Stasis was my first feature film that I directed. And I thought, okay, this will be just like with writing scripts. I can like do all this other stuff at the same time. And it turned out to be a lot more involved and time focused than I was expecting. So that's just part of my learning process as I make this transition. But I can write multiple scripts at a time. Can't really direct multiple films. So
right, you can't really, you kind of have to then just stick with that. But that, I'm so happy, because I think that I see how happy you are, and I want screenwriters to see that it's not a hopeless, you can be a screenwriter, and that isn't, like everybody thinks that you go out there and you can't, what are you going to do? And got to get an agent, got to get a manager. Now they're like talking agents versus managers versus, all kinds of things. And if you just
honestly, right now, I don't have an agent. I don't have a manager. I get my own jobs.
That's awesome.
I'm not getting big studio level jobs, but I am getting films made. I'm getting stuff done.
That's right.
Sorry.
That's okay. But that's what I'm saying. It's like, but it is there. Like, and don't you think with Netflix and Amazon and all these other areas, YouTube, like, that's where movies are headed. Like, it doesn't matter if it's hitting basically the big screen, because people are sitting and watching Netflix originally made, Netflix movie, Amazon has original made. There's so many avenues out there, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, and with Netflix in particular, because my husband actually works on a Netflix show. It is like Netflix is completely changing the landscape. It's like even the way that people approach festivals. There was just an article in the news recently where Netflix is going in and they are buying all these festival films, which leaves the other distributors with nothing. So now the trend there for the longest time was no one wanted to get involved in development because no one wanted to pay for a script and they didn't want to pay to actually work on this. So you had to bring them a project that already had a script, had a director, had money, was already like fully packaged so they could just start, ready to shoot the next day. Netflix has made that impossible now. So what they're having to do is they're having to get involved earlier in the process. They're having to start doing development again. And I'm hoping, knock on wood, that we'll start to see things that are more original content coming out. Because
that's what makes me happy. Because before it was like, well, each studio is only going to make 4 or 5 movies, with budgets and paying the actors and actresses, and you're not seeing as many, because I want more on Netflix, but I also want more in the movie theater. I want more choices in the movie theater, and if it's going to make them step their game up, then I'm all for that whole process happening. Yeah.
Because like there for the longest time, the studios, they kind of had a monopoly, and now Netflix and Amazon and Hulu are coming in and they're like, no, we're running with the big boys now, and it's the Wild West. Literally, it's the Wild West. Anything can happen.
I know. I feel like that's
exciting.
Right, it's exciting because you're like there. I think it's happening right now, and you're like right in the mix of it. I think you're going to see some, great things happening with your work. So
all right,
I'm really excited for you.
So.
Well, anyway, we will keep in touch with you. You are on LinkedIn, and people can find you there. Are you anywhere? Do you have a website, or are you on anything else?
I have a very ancient website that I have not updated in a very long time. But yeah, so my company name is Praxiscope Productions, Praxiscop. So you go to praxiscope.com. You can find me. I'm very active on Twitter.
Oh, okay, good.
If you like weird news and spooky stuff, I'm all about that. I'm all over Twitter. I can send you my links if you want.
Yes, please do, because I will post those. And, and that way we can I love being able to get everybody's movies and books and everything out there and getting people excited about it as it's coming, So I love that. I'm so happy I found you on LinkedIn. And
me too.
So anyway, well, you have a great day, and thank you so much, Nicole, and good luck
with
everything.
Thanks.
Good luck.
Yes,
with
thank you.
And
thank
everything. You. And hopefully we'll keep in touch and see what happens for you. Great.
Sounds good.
All right, great. Thank you. Have a good day.
Okay, thanks, you too.
Okay, bye.
Bye.